forecast for the week of December 20th, 2021. It's a busy week in the sky. It'll be a busy week down here. Probably not at all the week we planned for, though. That's something to keep in mind. Before we go any further, a couple of shout outs. Adam Bernstein over at the Medium channel. Lots of good stuff coming out of the Medium channel, including the weekly tarot forecast, but by no means limited to. And also Integrated Minds. And you can find the links to these things, not links so much as just, good search terms for them down in the description. Now, recently, Natalie and I did a talk about astrology and how we got into it and how we work with clients and things like that. It's pretty interesting, I would think. And due to some technical glitches that I would blame on Mercury no matter what, because he's not retrograde, we didn't wind up publishing to subscribers. So you've got to go do it by hand, so to speak. So go do it by hand. Let's talk about this week, though. Well, first of all, Venus retrograde. Did you see the Venus retrograde video that came out last Wednesday? My Venus retrograde video, not somebody else's, mine. I pointed out that it was not great to have Venus go retrograde during the holiday season. It might take some of the steam out of festivities. I didn't think to link it together with Omicron and the fact that now we have COVID surging, and so we have limitations that are coming about because of that, rather than just a general vibe of like, well, not feeling like being festive. So, well, no, actually, we can't be all that festive. So that we could pretty much see working through the end of January. That's when Venus goes direct. Venus in her retrograding, remember she's stationed retrograde right next to Pluto, and on Saturday, which is Christmas Day, Venus will again, this time retrograding conjunct Pluto, and does not meet with him going forward again until I think March 2nd. So again, when it comes to financial stuff, we have a great deal of uncertainty. And when it comes to our personal lives and romance, we also have that same uncertainty, that kind of Plutonian uncertainty, right? So these are times when we're likely to feel that things are maybe out of control, or we may really strive to gain control in the areas of romance and finance. And as Tiny Grimes fans know, romance without finance just makes no sense. That's a reference that no one will get. That is truly an obscure reference. So a lot of uncertainty in those areas, but uncertainty kind of correlates with creativity. The more certainty you have, the less flexibility, the less potential for creativity there's going to be, right? If you know the outcome, if you're sure of the outcome, if you could be sure of an outcome, you really have no creative potential to it. Right? Creativity rests upon being able to make decisions, which means that the outcome is uncertain. So we're actually in a period where, no, you can't get to the answer on anything, but it doesn't mean that you have no potential for creative involvement. You do. You just don't know what the outcome is going to be. Keep that in mind when financial or romantic or aesthetic questions come up right around the end of this week. It's a little meditation for us all. Okay, now we also have on Tuesday the sun going into Capricorn, which is, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter solstice. Most people are in the Northern Hemisphere, but it is the winter solstice up here. It is certainly the sun ingressing into Capricorn, no matter where you are. What is up with that? Well, the sun changes signs every month. And in that sense, going into Capricorn, that's just the yearly move into the sign of Capricorn and our emphasis on Capricornian things. Stuff like business, our institutions, work and career things and stuff like that. That's where we place our emphasis during Capricorn season. Of course, the first week or so of Capricorn season is taken up with a holiday kind of vibe, Venus retrograde and Omicron or not. So it's got that sort of split feeling to it. But by the time we get into January, it's the new year, and it's kind of like that sort of like, let's get back to it kind of feel. The solstice itself is the low point for the sun. If you look to the south, at midday, you'll see the sun just kind of above the horizon. Depends how far north you are and all of that, but it's its lowest point, the lowest arc, as opposed to the summer where it's the highest arc. What you'll get, and if you looked at the full moon last weekend, that was the Gemini full moon, what you'll get at this time of the year is that the moon is very high in the sky. So in the December, January full moons, you could really read by them, bright, blazing light all night long. But the sun, not making much of a showing during the day. And after the solstice, the sun climbs a little higher each day, and the days, of course, get longer. So it's a return of the light, and hence we have all of our light festivals, right? On Monday, we have Mercury trine to Uranus. Now, Mercury is in Capricorn, Uranus is in Taurus. Mercury in a good aspect, or even a tough aspect to Uranus. Lots of brilliant ideas, great insights, all kinds of ideas flying around. But in earth signs, these are very practical ideas. These things can be grounded. This is not a sort of out there kind of energy. This is something that is like, okay, you can grab hold of this and make something real with it. All of the various caveats recognized, but still, it's very good for good practical ideas. And I don't think Venus and Pluto are going to completely squash that in any way. I think that there is some good potential for that. We also had on Sunday, while Venus was stationing to retrograde on Sunday, the 19th, we also had Chiron stationing to go direct. That's a much more subtle, much less direct kind of energy for most of us. I think, though, that it could mean that at the early part of this week, we are sort of maybe feeling a little bit of the doubt kind of thing. This is not an ego stoking thing when Chiron stations. It's going to be going forward in Aries, so soon enough, it's pretty good, but it's not what I would call easy on the station itself. And that combined with Venus retrograde and a few other things sort of suggest maybe a little bit of a rough start to the week, but not really on a practical level. It just feels a little rough sometimes, I think. Okay. We have other stuff going on this week too. We have the Leo moon from the 21st onwards, or the 22nd, I think, depending upon where you are. So that's midweek. It should make for a pretty good run up to the holidays. Despite the fact that we have Venus retrograde and all kinds of things going on, and it does support that festive feeling, a little bit of fire. Now that the sun will have left the fire sign of Sagittarius and gone into the earth sign of Capricorn, but the moon will kind of keep things going a little bit with some fire for a while. Towards the end of the week, we have the moon in Virgo and then Libra, so it's going to be a bit of a shift. There's a lot of Neptunian energy that comes out right around the weekend, as the moon will oppose Neptune and so on. The other major thing that is happening this week is that Saturn is going to square Uranus for the last time this year. They had 3 squares this year, and this is the last one. It is really the defining big aspect of the year. It is the conflict between Saturn as the principle of tradition and Uranus as the principle of change. And so they're heading off with each other. Neither one is particularly flexible. And certainly in the fixed signs of Aquarius and Taurus, we're not likely to see a lot of flexibility. So we have a lot of, again, that kind of polarizing energy, that kind of, we're not giving in on anything. And this is going to go through social, political things. It has a lot to do with, it's just, you do the math, you figure that out for yourself. There's not a lot of room for compromise. The only thing is that Saturn is in Aquarius, which is Uranus's home sign. And so potentially, there is a tilt towards the more Aquarian ideals, things like, what's better for egalitarian, let's say, the egalitarian ideal. Saturn can get on board with that, as a matter of fact, particularly Saturn in Aquarius. So we could lean that way a little bit, but not without a fight. And of course, Saturn may not be so happy that Uranus took over his sign. So there could be additional animosity going on the assumption that the planets think like, I guess that's on the assumption that the planets think like me. Anyway, have a really great Christmas if that's your thing, and have a really good week, because that should be your thing.